It started like any other night in the woods. The fire crackling, the cold setting in, the distant hum of insects hidden in the dark. We were miles from anywhere. No roads, no cell service, just the five of us alone under the trees. Or so we thought. We weren't new to this. We'd camped before, farther out than this even. We weren't afraid of the dark. We weren't afraid of the quiet. But then, sometime after midnight, the quiet changed. It was subtle at first, a shift in the air, a feeling more than a sound. You don't notice it right away, how the usual noise of the forest just fades. The insects stop, the wind dies, and in its place, something else. Something listening. The first footstep was soft, a single crunch of leaves just beyond the tree line, maybe 30 feet away, maybe closer. Someone shifted in their sleeping bag, but no one spoke. We were all listening now. Another step, closer this time. It wasn't an animal, we knew that instantly. Animals move with uncertainty, with caution. This was different. It moved with purpose, slow, unhurried, like whoever or whatever it was knew exactly where we were. A third step, then a fourth. The sound was circling now. Then the whispering began. It wasn't clear at first, just a murmur, a voice carried by the wind. We told ourselves we imagined it, that it was just the trees, the rustling leaves. But then we heard it again, this time closer. The words weren't distinct, just a sound, just a breath against the trees. But something about it, it felt wrong. Not like someone whispering to be heard. Like someone whispering to themselves. I turned my head, heart hammering. I knew, without a doubt, if I moved the zipper of that tent, if I looked outside, something would be there. Standing in the dark. But I didn't move. None of us did. Because in that moment, we all understood the same thing. We weren't supposed to be here. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was just a weekend trip. One we'd planned for months. A break from the noise, from the city, from everything. No cell service, no roads, just miles of trees stretching in every direction. We wanted the isolation. We thought we'd enjoy the silence. But silence is different when you're truly alone. There were 5 of us. 5 friends who had done this before. Or at least we thought we had. Josh, the planner. Always the one with the maps, the compass, the backup flashlight in case the first one failed. Sam, the skeptic. Nothing ever scared him. Always the first to say, it's just the wind, or you're imagining things. Ben, the wild card. The one who dared people to go deeper into the woods. The one who thought it was funny to wander off alone just to spook the rest of us. Riley, the cautious one. Always scanning the trees, always on edge. The only one who never really wanted to come. And me, the one telling this story. That first night, everything felt normal. Almost peaceful. We were deep in Blackwood Forest. No marked trails, no signposts. Just a stretch of wilderness that few people ever camped in. The sun was setting when we finished setting up camp. We had a fire going, food cooking. We were laughing, telling stories, watching the last light sink below the trees. That's when we noticed it. The silence. It had crept in without us realizing. No wind, no crickets, nothing. Josh joked, "Guess we scared everything off." Then laughed. Riley didn't. We should have paid attention earlier, to the warning, to the way the guy at the gas station looked at us when we told him where we were heading. "You boys going out to Blackwood?" He didn't say it like a question, more like a statement, like he already knew. Josh nodded, tossing a bag of ice onto the counter. "Yeah, just a weekend trip, campfire, beers, the whole thing." The man stared for a second, too long. Then he said, "You're not the first ones. Just don't go past the old trail at night. People vanish there." Sam scoffed, shaking his head. "Yeah, okay. Vanish how?" The man didn't answer, just looked at us, his expression unreadable, and rang up the ice. We laughed about it in the car, said it was just a story, just some old guy trying to scare us. Now I wish we had listened. That first night Riley was the first to say it. Something feels off. We all turned to look at her. She was staring into the trees, her face pale in the firelight. Ben smirked. "Oh, come on, don't be that person. We just got here." But Riley didn't laugh, she just shook her head. "I don't know, it's just, we're alone out here, right?" No one answered. Josh rolled his eyes, tossing another log onto the fire. "It's just the woods, Riley. You're overthinking it." Sam leaned back in his chair. "Seriously, what do you think is out here, a monster? A serial killer?" Riley didn't look at them, she just kept staring at the trees. Then, so quietly we almost didn't hear her, she said, "I don't know, but something is watching us." We let it go. The night went on. We laughed, we told stories, we convinced ourselves that nothing was wrong. But looking back, it started that night. The feeling, the sense that we weren't alone. And before the night was over, we'd know for sure. Night came fast in the forest. One moment, the sky was streaked with the last orange light of the sun. The next, the trees had swallowed it whole. The fire was the only thing keeping the dark at bay. We settled in, the way we always did. Jokes, stories, the sound of cans popping open. The kind of night where nothing bad is supposed to happen. At some point, Ben suggested a game of truth or dare. It started out harmless. Stupid questions, embarrassing dares, things we wouldn't even remember in the morning. But then, someone dared Riley to go stand at the tree line, alone. She shook her head immediately. Not a chance. Josh laughed. "Come on, it's a joke. You just have to stand there for a minute." Riley didn't say anything, just kept staring at the black space between the trees. Finally, she muttered, "I don't like it out there." None of us did. We just hadn't admitted it yet. That's when we heard it. A sound, just past the tree line. It wasn't the wind, it wasn't the fire, it was something else. We all turned toward the sound at once. The firelight barely touched the trees, just shadows on shadows, shifting in the dark. Sam was the first to break the silence. Probably just a deer. But no one else spoke, no one else moved, and then another step. It wasn't random. It wasn't the sound of something passing through, it was following a pattern. Step, pause, like it was circling us. Josh grabbed his flashlight and pointed it toward the trees. Nothing. "See?" Sam muttered. Nothing there. But Riley wasn't convinced. I could see it in the way she gripped the edge of her chair, her knuckles white, her eyes never left the trees. Then she whispered, "Look again." Josh swung the flashlight back, and for a second, just a second, something moved. We all saw it. A shape, a figure, still, watching. And then, before we could focus, before we could make sense of what we were seeing, it was gone. Ben was the first to speak. "What was that?" Josh didn't answer. He stood up, flashlight in hand, stepping toward the trees. "Dude, what are you doing?" Riley hissed. Josh just shook his head. "If it's an animal, we don't want it getting too close to camp." He took another step, Rahals then another. We waited. No one breathed. The fire popped behind us, but otherwise, the night had gone completely still. Finally, Josh exhaled. Nothing, probably just a trick of the light. But his voice didn't sound convinced. We all sat back down, tried to act normal, tried to let the conversation pick up again, but it wasn't the same. Ben cracked a joke. No one laughed. Sam tossed another log into the fire, but his hands were shaking. And Riley just kept watching the trees. That was the first time we knew something was out there. But it wouldn't be the last. The fire was burning low. The night was colder than we expected. Josh stood up, stretching his arms, and said he was going to grab more firewood. It was supposed to take 5 minutes. But he never came back. We didn't think much of it at first. He'd probably wandered a little farther than planned. Maybe he found a bigger branch and was dragging it back. Maybe he got distracted. Maybe. 5 minutes became 10, then 15. Ben was the first to say it. "Where the hell is Josh?" We all turned to look at the trail he'd taken, just a narrow gap between the trees. The fire barely reached it, just enough to show nothing, just empty space, just darkness. Sam clicked his tongue. "He's fine, he probably just..." Then we heard it. It was soft, almost too soft to notice, but it was there. Then, clear as anything, we heard his voice. "Hey guys." We all turned toward the trees. Ben let out a nervous laugh. "Dude, what are you doing? Come back." No response. Riley stood up. "Josh?" Silence. Then another shuffle of leaves and his voice again. "Hey guys." Exactly the same as before. The same tone, the same pause, like a recording being played back. Something wasn't right. Sam muttered, "What the hell?" Ben stood up, grabbing the flashlight. "Screw this. I'm getting him." Before we could stop him, he stepped past the firelight and into the dark. The flashlight beam cut through the trees, back and forth, searching. Nothing. Then, suddenly, there it was. Josh's flashlight, lying in the dirt, still on. Ben bent down, grabbing it. "Josh, where the hell are you?" Still no response. And then, the whispering started. It was faint, almost like the wind, but then it grew louder. Riley gasped. "Do you hear that?" I nodded slowly, because I did hear it. It was my voice. Somewhere out in the trees I heard myself whispering, but the words weren't clear, just a soft, breathy sound, like someone was repeating what I'd said earlier that night. Ben backed up fast, nearly tripping over a root. What the f is going on? Riley was shaking. We need to leave, now. Sam scoffed, but I could see it, the way his hands were clenched into fists, the way his jaw was locked tight. He wasn't laughing anymore. We waited. 5 minutes, 10. Josh never came back. His flashlight was still on, lying there in the dirt, like he'd just let go of it, like he'd been holding it 1 second and the next he wasn't there. Ben kept muttering under his breath, "This is messed up. This is so messed up." No one argued. Riley whispered again, barely loud enough to hear, "We need to go." And finally, we all agreed. We were leaving. That was the decision. Whatever was out there, whoever was whispering in the dark, who had taken Josh, or maybe what had taken him, we weren't waiting to find out. We packed fast, throwing our gear into bags, barely speaking. Sam kept the flashlight trained on the tree line. Riley's hands were shaking so badly she could barely zip her backpack. "We'll come back for him in the morning," Ben muttered, but no one believed that. No one said it out loud, but we all knew the truth. Josh was gone. Then, just as we were about to leave, we heard footsteps. But this time they weren't coming from the trees. They were coming from the trail, from the direction Josh had gone. Ben was the first to react. "Holy sh!" We all turned at once, and there he was. Josh? He was just standing there, a few feet away from the fire, motionless, arms at his sides. His clothes were the same, his face the same. But something was wrong. His eyes weren't blinking, just wide. Too wide. And then he smiled. Ben let out a nervous laugh, but it sounded forced. "Dude, where the hell did you go?" we thought. Josh didn't answer, just stood there, his lips stretching into a smile that didn't belong on a human face. Too wide, too perfect, like his mouth was trying to do something it wasn't meant to. Sam hesitated, then raised the flashlight. His skin looked wrong, stretched too tight, his teeth were too white, his eyes didn't reflect the light the way they should have. And still, he didn't blink. "Josh?" Riley's voice was barely above a whisper. Then, in a voice that wasn't his, Josh said, "Hey guys." Riley choked on a breath. Ben took a step back. Sam turned to me, his face pale. "That's not him." Then, before anyone could react, the fire went out. Not like it burned down, not like the wind took it, it just stopped existing. 1 second, the flames were there, flickering orange and warm. The next, nothing. Just smoke curling into the air, like something had stolen the light itself. Riley screamed. Someone shoved me, I don't even know who. I fell, hands hitting the dirt, scrambling to get up. Flashlight swung wildly, cutting through the night. Josh was gone, or whatever had been standing there wearing his face was gone. Then footsteps, running from every direction. But we couldn't see them, only hear them. We ran, no plan, no thinking, just pure instinct. Branches whipped at my face, my arms. I tripped, caught myself. Behind me, I heard Riley sobbing, her breath ragged. Sam was shouting something, but I couldn't hear him over the sound of our own footfalls, snapping branches, rustling leaves. Then, suddenly, Ben shouted, "There, the trail." And for a moment, relief flooded through me. We found the way out. We were going to make it. Until we weren't. Because when we burst through the trees, we were back at our campsite. The fire was out, the logs were still smoldering. Our bags were still sitting there, half-packed, everything exactly how we left it. Like we had never moved. A long, unbearable pause. Then quietly, so quiet it was almost lost in the night, Riley whispered, "No, no, 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 no." Ben dropped to his knees, gasping for breath. What just happened? Sam turned in circles, the flashlight shaking in his grip. That's not possible. That's not possible. But it was. Because no matter which direction we ran, we always ended up back here. Riley was hyperventilating, hands gripping her head. I grabbed her shoulders, shaking her. "Breathe. You have to breathe." She nodded, barely trying to pull in air. But then, footsteps, right behind us. Slow, steady, not running anymore. Like whatever was out there knew we had nowhere left to go. There was no way out. Every path led back to the same place. Every direction brought us right back to the smoldering embers of our fire pit, to our half-packed bags, to the ghost of Josh's last words echoing in our heads. It didn't make sense, but it was happening. And then Ben saw it. He was the only one still moving, pacing in tight circles, hands in his hair, muttering under his breath. Then he just froze. "What is that?" I turned, followed his gaze. At first I thought it was nothing, just another fallen log, half buried in the dirt, but then I saw the edges of it, the leather binding, the pages sticking out, crumpled, yellowed with age. It was a book, a journal. Ben hesitated. Then, slowly, he bent down, fingers brushing against the cover. It was damp, filthy, like it had been sitting there for years, maybe longer. But when he picked it up, I saw the name carved into the front. Joshua? My stomach turned to ice, but Ben was already flipping through the pages. The handwriting was frantic, messy. Some pages had been ripped out, others were smudged with dirt, or something darker. But the words were still clear. If you hear the whispers, don't answer. If you see the lost ones, don't look at them. This place is a trap. The last thing written, scrawled, uneven, like whoever wrote it hadn't had time to finish. It won't let you leave. A branch snapped behind us. We all turned at once, but there was nothing, just blackness stretching between the trees. Then another sound, closer, a wet, dragging noise like something heavy being pulled through the dirt. "Run," Riley whispered. No one moved. "Run." We bolted, scattered. It didn't matter where, as long as it was away. The trees blurred past, the ground uneven beneath my feet. I could hear Riley sobbing, Ben gasping for air. Sam was somewhere ahead, flashlight swinging wildly. Then, without warning, a scream, cut off. We stopped, turned back. Ben was gone. "Ben?" Riley's voice cracked. She ran toward where he had been, but Sam grabbed her, yanking her back. No, it took him. It took him. But we have to. A sound, a slow, deliberate breath, not from Ben, but from the dark, right behind us. We ran, harder than before, through the trees, down the path, tripping, falling, clawing at the earth to keep moving. The car, we could see it now, just beyond the trees where we left it, the only way out. We weren't going to stop, we weren't going to look back. But then, it was close, too close. We reached the car, yet yanking at the doors, tumbling inside. Sam twisted the keys. Nothing, not even a click. Riley was sobbing. "Start the car." "I'm trying." Sam slammed his fist against the dashboard. The headlights flickered, just for a second, but that was enough. Because in that brief flash of light, we saw it. Standing in the trees, just feet from the car. Watching. It wasn't Josh. It wasn't Ben, but it had their faces. Twisted, stretched into something not quite human. Smiling. The lights cut out, the engine wouldn't turn over, the air felt heavier, pressing down, suffocating. And then, the last thing I remember, the doors unlocking. They never found us, at least not in the way they should have. The next morning, just after sunrise, a team of rangers was called in. Hikers had reported an abandoned campsite deep in Blackwood Forest. They said the fire was still smoking, the bags were half packed, but there was no sign of the people who had been there. No footprints leading away. No disturbances, just emptiness. The rangers expected to find something. A note, a sign of struggle. A reason why 5 people would vanish without a trace. But they didn't. Instead, they found a camera. It was lying in the dirt just outside the car. The battery was dead, but the memory card was intact. They took it back to the station, plugged it in, and hit play. At first, it was normal. A shaky recording of the fire, the sound of laughter. Someone making a joke about ghosts, someone else saying how they never wanted to leave. Then, the night changed. The last few minutes of footage were different. The camera was shaking. The angle was tilted, like someone had dropped it and let it keep recording. The fire was out. The only light was from the flashlight beams swinging wildly. Panicked voices, a scream, the sound of running, and then the last frame. The camera had landed in the dirt, pointed directly at the tree line. And in that moment, something was there. It wasn't moving, it wasn't chasing, it was just standing there. At first it looked human, a tall figure just at the edge of the trees, but the longer you looked, the more it became clear. The limbs were too long, the head tilted at an unnatural angle, the eyes, if they were eyes, were wrong. And the smile, it stretched wide, too wide, as if it had been carved into its face. Then, in the final second of the footage, before the screen cut to static, it moved. The static lasted for 6 seconds. And in those 6 seconds, over the white noise, a voice was heard. Soft, faint, almost lost beneath the hum. But when they slowed it down, filtered out the distortion, it spoke. Not in anger, not in warning, but in certainty. We were never alone. The official reports were inconclusive. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just an abandoned campsite, a lost group of hikers, and a piece of footage that no one wanted to talk about. But people still go missing in Blackwood Forest, every year. And the ones who come back don't talk about what they saw, or who they saw. But if you ever find yourself out there alone, deep in the trees, miles from the nearest road, listen. Because if you hear whispering in the dark, you're not alone either. What do you think really happened in the woods? Were they hallucinating, or was something else out there? Comment your theories below.